Hello, welcome back to Chris's Moto Life. Believe it or not, we're still on episode 13. I miscounted somewhere along the line. So we're really not at episode 14, so we're going to call this 13A maybe, or 13B we'll call this one. We don't suffer from triskaidekaphobia here at Moto Life. That's fear of the number 13. Okay, let's get on with the car. This is my Porsche. It is a 1984 911 Targa. It's a 3.2 Carrera. The series ran from 1984 to 1989. This one still has the earlier 915 transmission. And what I just was doing some reading on it was, I never knew this, that it's essentially the engine of the predecessor, the 3.0, I think the SC. And what they did is they put the turbo crankshaft in it to give it a little bit more stroke, bumped it right up from 3.0 to 3.2. This is an incredibly reliable car. It doesn't look the best. I mean, I clean it whenever I feel like it, but this car has been nothing but durable for me. And to be honest with you, some people have really lofty goals in life. They want to be the president of a company. They want to get married and have a family. They want to make $1 million. Not me. I had one goal in life, and that was to get a Porsche 911. So I got a Porsche 911. So basically from here, my whole life is just going to be like a slide downhill because I've already hit my goal. I really don't have any more goals. So makes me very happy. Some fun things about this car. When I bought it, I joined the Porsche Club, and boy, did my life change in a hurry. I met the coolest people. We started going to the track. As you'll notice, this car is pretty much stock. I mean, there's nothing really done to it. I took it to the track and made it all the way up to the highest non-instructor group that you could. I used to slide this thing around on the track, beat the living daylights out of it. We had a great time. We've been to Watkins Glen, been to Summit Point, been to Pocono. I never did NJMP, which is funny. Now I'm doing it on the motorcycles. There's just like so many neat things like really happened because of this car. It just allowed me to get into like a more higher level of driving. Why don't we take a look at the engine, and I'll show you just a couple of little things that I did to it. And while we're talking about the car, the top speed was supposed to be 150 miles an hour on this car. The highest I've ever seen was coming out of the S's onto the back straight at the Glen, and I saw an indicated, I think it was like 143, 144. Car felt good, but I really just don't see it going all the way up to 100, and I don't think it could go up to 150. Maybe the European version did. Which brings us to, this is an American spec engine. The European engine had 231 horsepower, while this engine has 207. Where's my 24 horsepower? Thank you, United States of America, because I'm the kind of guy, if a tree or two dies, but I get 24 extra horsepower, I'm going to be a happy camper. All we did to this engine was I took the air box out, and I just put a cold air intake on it. That's all I did to free it up. You'll also notice that I took the air conditioning compressor off. Again, the Porsche 911, if you're really gonna worry about air conditioning, I don't think this is really the car for you, because this era of Porsche, the air conditioning barely worked. Sure, you can get it to work if you wanna put in like some extra condensers, extra hoses, yeah. This is a Targa. I just pop the top off and tan a little bit while I drive it. Takes me all over to visit my friends and such. So, we've had some funny things, and another nice thing about this generation of Porsche is this is like you're still in touch with the old school Porsche, yet it's new enough, modern enough, that it's easy enough to drive, but you still have that whole visceral feeling of it, that you really feel like you're connected to the car, like it shakes, it does funny things. We've done all the work to this ourselves. What's pretty funny is one time I was with our cameraman, as a matter of fact, and we were taking the engine out of the car because I had to replace, I think, like a rocker arm because it was making a ticking sound, which it still does. For 20 years, who cares? It's not going anywhere. So we're taking the engine out and we're pulling it out with a jack. We just jack the back end up, put it on jack stands, then we take a floor jack lower the engine out from the bottom. So we go to pull the engine out, the engine slips off the jack, bounces off the floor, and then we had to wedge it back up to get it back onto the jack. Nothing happened to it. These cars are bulletproof, except one time at Summit Point, I was coming out of turn, it must have been, we were coming into turn 2. Maybe turn two, between turn 2 and turn 3. And I went to do an 2-3 upshift, what was it? I was doing a 3-4 upshift, and I did a 3-2 instead. I hit second. The car lurched a little bit, and I didn't think anything had really happened to it. But what happened was, from the force, about a year later, I was coming around on Jefferson Circuit, as a matter of fact. We were back at Summit Point. I went to shift, and it felt like electricity came up my arm. The transmission just locked up tighter than a drum. Turns out that I cracked second gear in half, and I really attribute it to that bad shift that one time. So what I did is it cost me $700 for a new transmission. I sold my old transmission for about $300. We had to notch out for the crank sensors, and it just worked fine. So that's about it. That's all I've ever had to do to this car. Well, I hope this kind of introduces you to my Porsche. And as always, I want to really thank you for taking the time to come and by, watch Chris's Moto Life, and I want you all to have an incredibly awesome week. Why don't we fire this thing up now, and I'll take it up the road as we always have now.